This is the code that we have that's vulnerable to SQL injection, and we're going to bypass it. And this is the corresponding web page. It's a very simple web page. It's just a page that asks for username and password and a submit button. And if you enter the correct username and password, which is admin in this case, it says welcome admin. But the point is that we want to play an attacker that doesn't know the correct username and password but still exploits the system. Let's first go through the code. On line 1, the code starts. It's a PHP code, so the first line has to be this symbol. On line 2, it includes the library used for setting up the code, and on line 3, it connects to the database that holds the username and passwords. Line 4 is empty. On line 5 through 20, which are the important parts, it checks whether the entered username and password are correct or not. We'll get to that in a minute. Down here, on lines 24 to 29, it actually creates the form that we see here. So this is a username, then there's an input field of type text in front of it, then goes to the new line, then there's password, another input field, and goes to the new line, and there's a submit button. And that's the form that we filled here. So once we fill this form and click submit, this if becomes true, and we go inside and run this code. So let's see what this code is. First, it reads the username that we provided, then it reads the password that we provided. This part is not important, that's how it provides it. The important part is line 11, where it forms a SQL query, an SQL query, which we're going to talk about now. And on line 14, it runs that query. If the query is successful, as in the results are not empty, it says welcome and uses your username. And otherwise, it says invalid username or password. So let's test this again. We try admin. It says welcome admin. As you can see here, this is the corresponding code. It says welcome. The result of the database is username, which is admin. If we try admin1234 and click submit, it says invalid username or password because this else part is being executed because the username and password are not working. So let's get to line 11, which is the query, the SQL query is sent to the database. The SQL language is not very complicated. It's a simple descriptive language. So what it says is that it says select star from users where username is what we just provided as username and password is what we just provided as password. So the database just returns whatever username and password that we provide to it. And if the result is empty, then there are no such username and passwords. And if the result is not empty, then we found the correct username and password pair and then say welcome and log the user in. So this is the SQL query that runs. So I'm going to change this code to show the query to us because we want to be able to figure out what's happening here. So now this code is going to show the query that's going to get executed here. So admin, submit. And as you can see here, the query is select star from users where username is admin and password is admin. Okay. Now we want to exploit this code. The way we exploit this code is that we try any username. I'll just use foo because we don't know the admin's username. We want to exploit it. And I entered this password, which might look weird to you, but just bear with me and I'll explain what it is. As you can see, it's 1 single quote space or space single quote 1 single quote equals single quote 1. And now I hit submit. Apparently this is not a correct username and password pair, so the application should say invalid username or password. But let's see what it says. The application says welcome ABSX. That's interesting. Let's see why this is happening. So let's take a look at the query that's getting executed here. The query is still select star from users where username is foo, the thing that we entered, and password is. Now this is the interesting part. The part that I highlight is the password that I entered. It's inside a pair of single quotes and that's supposed to be the password. But the trick is that it's changing the semantics of that query. It's making it and password equals 1, or 1 equals 1. Well, this OR part is always true because 1 is always equal to 1. So this part is true. And because true is ORed with something else, the result is true. So this whole thing is true. It's pretty much like the username and password pair that are entered were correct. And that's why it says welcome ABS6, because it gets the first user from the database. And the first user is not admin, it's ABS6, but we can use similar methods to change that to something else. So the way this is working is that we're first breaking out of the string, then adding some semantics to the code. So that's a very simple SQL injection that I've used here. Now let's see if I can use the same SQL injection to extract some other data. I'm going to use foo, and here say 1 and 1 equals 0, union select 1 and version and 3, and submit that. And as you see, this one doesn't work. Let's see the syntax. Oh, there's a single quote at the end. That's why it's not working. Let me get rid of that. Foo --x submit. And still not working. Let's try this. 1 union select 1 2 3 --x. Okay, yeah, this one works. Now let's fix this to version and submit again. And version's not working. Let's try database. Oh, I see, it's a SQLite database. Okay, I'll try, let's see if it has group concat. Group concat, select users. Username from users. Okay, no group concat. Let's try select username from users, limit 1. Change this to password. Submit. Alright, so you can see now I changed this query. I did another SQL injection. Instead of logging in this time, I extracted the password of the user in the database, which is somewhat weird. As you can see, this is the password for the first user, the username of which was ABS6. Now let's get the password of admin using the same method. I'm just going to change this limit 1 to limit 2 and 1. Limit 1 and 1. And 1. Okay, submit. And you can see that this is the password for admin, which was also admin. So you see that using SQL injection, I can do a wide range of things, from stealing information from the database to bypassing the login and doing a lot more damage.